unsettle them. This is a top laner. There's so many options if you're getting 5th overall pick for bot lane, but when we've seen anyone else claim 5th pick, it hasn't inspired us like Nogari, who feels a bit like a Gathering Storm, the rune, in terms of just a player. He's just able to overtake games in the side lane as games go on. So far, so good for banning out top lane champions on the side of DAMWON, and they need to show us that that just doesn't sufficiently shut them down, because so far, 3 sets, no match victories.
Yeah, well, the Ezreal picked up here for Nuclear, you'd have to assume. Currently 0-3 on the pick himself, but looking to turn that around with a victory. What will Kingzone respond with? They're flashing a lot of 80 carries here.
A lot of death favorites there.
Would have been nice to see the Kog'Maw, but not today, guys. Maybe sometime later. We've seen the Jinx, but today it's just going to be the Kai'Sa for now.
Love seeing the deft hovers. The Kog'Maw is, of course, like you say, one of the most famous ones. Even when Kog'Maw, in his previous rework, had 5 attack speed when they doubled his attack speed, Deft was famous for being recognized as the only AD carry who could visibly still stutter step every auto around 4 or 5 attack speed. So ultra famous on that pick. He brought back the Jinx, so why not the Kog'Maw? Lee Sin going to be taken first round, and Canyon, okay, we're seeing something new from him. He's actually been kind of visibly different since the Kesper Cup, since that loss to Tarzan where he really had his sails just destroyed. He's played Kha'Zix 5 times, or the most Kha'Zix of any player, and then defaulted to Nocturne, and only Talia Aatrox behind that, so he's had a pretty narrow jungle champion pool. Seeing him jump on a playmaker like the Lee Sin is already a new look to DAMWON game.
It's going to be interesting to see if he can make those plays as he has been trying to on some of those other aggressive kind of jungle picks in the Kha'Zix.
Do you ban Jax here, as Roscoe has been defaulting to it quite a lot in the jungle for Kingzone? They've already banned Sejuani, which is just a very pointed one to try to deal with the pick threat they have already. And they'll ban away the the Nocturne. They're going to be happy to see a Tahm Kench ban, though, because remember, you already have some pick power going on the side of DAMWON Gaming. So Tahm Kench on one of these teams here was looking very, very likely. The Nocturne ban just going to be because losing a fallback champion of his own. Seem like they're happy enough with Jackson. There is the 4th top lane ban at Nogari.
Well, Nogari will still have that counter pick in the 5th pick if they do just pick up a support here. Maybe something like a Braum or, you know, there are a lot of options that are still available. There's that Braum.
It's a smart Braum pick as well because it's a blocker to orange support from Tucson. It's something that he's been playing around with. Wouldn't have been the worst choice here. Now, there's Rakan players like Hoyt, and there's our most famous Rakan player in Tucson, who has just been a genius on this pick in the past. And he's going to have to, like the Shen, make us a believer of one of these oldies. It's a different type of golden oldie. It's the one that's been nerfed most recently. And I guess Cuz will just default to the Jax.
Jax is good. As you were saying, he likes it, has a couple of wins on it. And I was certainly not convinced by the Rakan the first time we saw it, as were a lot of people not very convinced. And last pick here going to be the Victor, probably going to be for Nogari up on the top side, up against that Sion you would expect.
Yeah, we'll wait on the lane assignments here to get all the full information. It's not going to be Rakan Sion, guys. Sorry about that. I know you're looking for excitement, but a free could play later this week, so you will not be seeing that level of crazy. So happy enough with the Lee Sin versus Jax matchup that was always going to be there if we didn't see a Jax ban. Just worried about counter gank potential of a Nocturne. So as things shake out here, Nogari is on the Victor. So it's not quite the same level of last pick. And the lane assignment is against the Akali. We'll see if Nogari will be respectful, because based on the player, you don't expect him to do what we see some other players do. Think of Khan, who went Catalyst and Negatron before any of his Hexcore upgrades, before anything like a Lost Chapter. We feel like he's going to build full damage and bring on the challenge from Akali, who post-6 has a lot of creative mobility to try to all-in a squishy Victor.
And that does mean that we will see Pawn on the Sion this time around. It's kind of unfortunate. I was looking forward to him jumping onto another kind of carry champion, had a win on the Akali. Only 0-1 on the Sion. We'll see if he can turn that round tonight. And we'll see Lissandra once again for Showmaker, hopping up against the Sion in the mid lane. We'll also have to wait and see if there are any lane swaps. That has become a thing with all the flexing around mid and top nowadays.
Lane assignments always interesting to track, and Rascal seems to be that recognized Akali player on Kingzone. Kingzone versus DAMWON should be a close series. Seems like the Kingzone faithful messed up their timings there.
Yeah, the timing was way off. They started way too early when everybody was still cheering for the game.
Come on, guys. The meta is that we get the slow rollout around the champions and go from there. And they just didn't pick that one up perfectly. We're getting that zoom in on Tucson, who is not agreeing with the Predator choice that we saw from Hoyt. Only our second Rakan. We are on patch 9.2, guys. So grand entrance now, kind of crappy entrance. But
it's just, you know,
Unsealed
good
Spellbook
entrance.
could be pretty good at giving some flexible options here. And Tucson was always a support we kind of cribbed notes on when it came to Unsealed Spellbook, because he was always staunchly taking this over Guardian and other options. Remember, this is Rakan, whose base stats were nerfed further. Most people will take Guardian just to have any sort of semblance of tankiness.
Yeah.
You make the wrong move as Rakan, you die.
And now you can't grand escape very fast as well. It's not quite as fast, obviously, after the nerf, so it definitely feels like a lot of our eyes are going to be on Tucson to see his plays on the Rakan and make us a believer to actually see this more often in professional play. I'm not convinced, but I suppose if anyone was going to convince me of something, it might be Tucson. We're going to get a look at his runes here.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, he's actually gone for the tenacity here, which took a long time to proc, of course, when it comes to picking that one up. Interesting choice, and really, mana regen as well. Okay, well, I'll trust that's the way that it's gone. I'm unconvinced with those runes.
He had the
presence
of mind, yeah.
Huh. Okay.
I suppose if your grand entrance isn't as good, maybe just having your ult more often makes it better.
No defense tree is what we're saying here, which
yeah.
Seems bold. I guess they think that Ezreal and Braum are going to be non-interactive, which to a point should be true. Let's look at the jungle paths here. Blue to enemy blue is actually the path here from Cuz. Really creative path. He's gone through the jungle here, so just wants to guarantee what camps he can in a non-interactive way.
Yeah.
This is definitely going to surprise the enemy jungler.
And definitely don't try this at home kind of thing as well. If you do this, you get collapsed upon, and you don't have your team's support either. As Canyon comes in and he says, hey, wait, where's the blue for me?
3-buff.
I was supposed to take the blue and we were going to vertically jungle, but no. Cuz says, I'll take both of them and my own red.
You go Machete, you have the attack speed passive. You can rip through single target camps, and he's only now approaching his first AoE camp, which is his own Raptor. So really innovative path here coming through from Cousin. I feel like he's a player who, you know, a Royal Roader, but not really celebrated because everyone was focusing on all the other players on Longzhu Gaming in 2017 summer, and then only played sparingly when Peanut joined the lineup. He's a player that still we don't know everything about, even though he's played close to 100 pro games. And he's always been a really good solo queue player, even as a trainee when he was on Longzhu Gaming before he debuted in summer in 2017. So cool to see him kind of puffing out his chest a bit, trying different things and trying to be a leader, because it's a team that could, on the top side especially, need a strong voice in Kingzone.
Yeah, they need a strong top side as well, just to go along with Deft and his carry and Pawn showing up every once in a while. I remember talking before the season even started about Cousin Rascal and being very unimpressed about the top lane of Kingzone. I think they've been doing decently, at least in the last couple of series, but still not popping off in a big way, as you were saying. So they want to get some feet under them and show us some more carry performances. Would be very nice if Cuz becomes known for this big-time Jax jungle player.
And they just want Rascal to be able to halve matchups, and whether that's skill matchups or tank matchups. The fact that he was losing reverse matchups at Kesper Cup was unacceptable. Here he needs to at least be halving matchups. And I've always seen something in Rascal the few times he's played. He never seemed like when Kingzone would play him instead of Khan, it never seemed so obvious that Khan wasn't in the roster. It felt like he could be a dependable name Let's see if he can be more than that. That's what Kingzone would prefer, is here is Cuz.
They saw him on the ward, but he's still going to go down to the stun here. Has to flash to get away. Rascal under the turret. Oh, no. Just barely in range. And that mistake is going to cost first blood. As, okay, Cuz getting frisky. Not quite able to make it happen, but...
Sorry, guys. It was me. Cost to Cuz confirmed. And Canyon once more.
Oh, no. Well, Red Smite comes in, but Cuz he's got the fancy feet going, is going to dodge that one.
I think Noguri was too brazen walking up, but it baited the enemy top laner to take the extra turret shot, and he goes down. Bit of a comedy of errors in the top. Benefits Noguri. Never what you want to hear if you are a Kingzone supporter, or when you're facing DAMWON Gaming in general. All Pawn can do is push out in the mid lane. It will be Scuttle topsiders. Here's the replay. Noguri's pretty brazen to be this far up, but gets the stun. Good positioning on the W, and this has been something we've said with Noguri multiple times. And yep, that extra turret shot condemns him to death.
It was the edge of the Victor stun.
Just the tip, you would say?
Yes, just the tip.
Shout out to Atlas. He doesn't say that as much, but we just pretend he does.
I mean, it definitely happened yesterday a couple times, but...
when does the first magic resist item come in for Noguri? Because he's definitely not building a Negatron cloak.
No, he doesn't strike me as that kind of player. Will he even go for it? Maybe the Merc Treads or something like that. But
we'll see. I would count Merc Treads as an MR item. Against some teams I wouldn't. For some players I wouldn't. But because it's Noguri, that's actually still a mini victory to get him to not build Sorcerer's Shoes. Again, Noguri has been a double-edged sword so far in the LCK. When they've won, he has looked monstrous. But in losses, he plays the game pretty evidently like it's solo queue. He walks up, he doesn't respect vision, he can be caught in the mid to late game just poking his head too far, trying to make a play happen, but he also wins you games. So that's why it's really fun to get 18 best of 3s to see how over those 18 best of 3s, the small adaptations in play we're likely to see rise.
Just maybe as it comes along, and if he continues to make the same mistake, I mean, they have that world-class coach as well that's eventually just going to say, okay, enough of this. You're a fantastic player, but you don't want to overdo it, and maybe he just wants to draw a lot of attention to the top side of the map and feels like it's okay that sometimes he gets punished for it. But the better teams are just like, well, we're just going to kill you over and over and take advantage of that.
But I never really know how to fully read those comments. You know, as a student of psychology myself, maybe he needs to play with that, you know, edge towards madness rather than standard play. I mean, you look at Khan, who came in playing his style for the longest time and now feels like he's a lot more blunt of a weapon than he once was, trying to fit a different role as mid lane.
Okay, Showmaker gonna have to self-ult here as Canyon continuing on. Does have level 6 with his red buff, but the flash, very respectful out of Cuz, but may have saved his life. He gets out of danger.
And the level 6 there was the big thing. Canyon with a nice counter gank timing. There is a real chance that Noguri needs to play with that aggressive streak. Speaking of, he's pushing up. He's got a nice health lead over Rascal. Definitely no all-in potential. Pre-1 item for Akali without some help.
So, Pawn running on in, and now Cuz with no flash is going to be kicked away to safety, and here comes the whole bot lane as Kaisa's getting in there onto the Lee Sin. They got the slow here, too, on a Showmaker who's also going to go down, and Kingzone with the big-time bait, it turns out, get a couple of kills.
Zippity-doo-dah, zippity-day. In comes the Rakan, but Kaisa's speed still as fast as ever. Really nice there. Ezreal couldn't react to it in any real way and didn't even have True Shot Barrage to through some damage. So like you say, it was all a clever ruse, and Kingzone come away with the first strike.
I see Pawn run in
again,
here, and
let's
I'm
focus
like,
on just the screen. Don't think about the mini-map. You watch this and you're like, okay, what we doing here? Tucson flashes in to begin, but then 2 men hit by the Grand Entrance. That is how you layer your CC, and Def responds first. Nuclear puts out exactly 0 damage when it matters, and they even get Showmaker on the back end.
Yeah, and it all started because Pawn just ran into the enemy side of the jungle saying, hey, what's up? Let's have a fight. And maybe that was a call from their side saying, hey, we really want to have a fight right now. And it truly worked out for them in that one.
And I think Sion is a perfect pick for Pawn's playstyle. If you think back to when Pawn's teams were some of the best in the world, I'm thinking of EDG and Samsung White, he was always known as kind of a Trojan horse. He was always a mid laner who overextended, did many things that looked either genius or madness. He would get solo killed sometime. He'd get solo kills as well. But he was a great sleight of hand for a hard carry like Deft to clean up, because you're always like, why is he there? What is he doing? And if you think too much about that, you miss Deft zipping in with the killer instinct and cleaning up. And there's a very real chance that Kingzone, when they succeed, will be because Pawn is active and always conspicuous in his positioning.
Speaking of which, has a couple of Dark Seals himself. You don't see that all the time on mid lane Sion. So kind of a cool build he's bringing in here as well, alongside of his nice
It's a pretty dank build, isn't it?
It's very dank. It's just about as dank as it gets. Suppose he'd need more dank seals if he wanted to raise the dank levels.
But he wants a control ward and a ruby crystal, so I think we're capping out at 2. The days of 3 are over, sadly. They're still around mid lane here. There's always kill pressure when the glacial path is down on Showmaker. Has self-hold and Aftershock, so probably not the best laid plans, but it does mean that they have mid priority pretty happily. Top lane not going their way, but with the control wards they have down, double around the mid lane, Sion has first roam, and a Rift Herald start is a possibility around pre-14 minutes.
Cuz hanging around the top side, maybe looking for Nuguri, but the Shuriken will not miss. Still gonna get on in there with that stun. Nuguri does have his flash, but in goes Rascal with the first part of that ultimate. Gonna get on top of Nuguri, but there he goes with the flash, waiting until the last moment, and that is gonna bait on in Rascal, who does go down in the end.
Love watching Nuguri in moments like that. It reminds me so much of Uzi years ago, where the first question is, why are you there? And then he outplays a hard scenario. So question is, can you start eliminating some of the positioning to open the plays, but ending the plays on his term only means a kill to the side of DAMWON. What's the play here? Nuguri has no control in this river, and he's like, I wonder if someone's there. The answer is yes, it's Jax, and he has huge engage range. But he doesn't go down to begin. Q at the top side, and then only opens up space when he knows he will live. Comes in with the counter gank here, playing towards his jungler. Well played towards the end. And that means it's 2-2. And the gold lead is actually DWG Gaming side, as here comes Sion!
Drifting on in from the top lane, and that means you're going to be stunned up the entire time. Nice follow-up from Kingzone after Nuguri uses his flash in the top side gank.
Nuguri, you need to know this. You didn't pick it up from the first Jax gank. That river is controlled by the side of Kingzone because of the mid lane priority the Sion had. Turns on Nuguri. They'll get that Rift Herald we talked about, and couldn't be at a more perfect time if they want that gold on the charge, which has certainly been the meta in the last 4 or 5 match days.
It's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to pick it up right here, 13 minutes and 1 second. It's going to go back with that empowered recall and then return to a lane immediately and try to get that gold going. So very nice couple of plays there for Kingzone to leash control back of the game. They're still down a bit in terms of golds, as the farm leads in the mid and top lane are pretty nice here for DAMWON, but still definitely picking up an objective that Kingzone can come back with.
But the turret plates haven't really gone down anywhere. We're not actually seeing the Rift Herald invested yet. Lee Sin would have to run to lane, so maybe it's going to be more about killing a turret rather than necessarily getting the gold. Benefit to this is that Akali with one item might hit a side lane when she wants to. Some Drift King plays here. Lovely stuff from Pawn. No longer his birthday. That was last week. This week, he just rolls through. It feels like a birthday when you get that full duration stun onto a Victor. Victor dies as an afterthought. And now we wait and see where Lee Sin will set up and whether it will actually be a turret destruction in the next few minutes.
And you mentioned Nuguri kind of, maybe does he have to play aggressive? Is that just his style, his personality? And after the fantastic play up in the top lane, he decides, hey, we don't have any vision here, and my jungler's doing red buff, and we don't know where the Jax is, but I see that Sion and Akali can collapse onto me. I'm still going to try to clear a control ward by myself at the Rift Herald. That's just a mistake that you cannot be making. Don't know if it's, just a one-off mistake or if it's just because he felt good after the last play, but it did cost them a lot. Let's see who does end up picking up this Infernal Drake, as it will be the next big objective. Pawn trying to bait them in, is going to charge on to Canyon, and with Jax nearby, DWG will back off.
He also already has an adaptive health. So he is ultra tanky to Lissandra damage and doesn't give too many mundos about that scenario. Watching Kingzone here. They have the Rift Herald onto Cuz, of course, after picking it up earlier. Watching the play and how Kingzone want to approach this game. Coming in, they're going to do a very shallow channel. No interrupts unless Braum looks for a flash. Oh, he's not going to. Here's Shelly. Kingzone seem to just want to use Shelly to pick up this Inferno.
And honestly, might just be a better choice because that gold from the plates might not amount to the same amount of gold you're going to get from an Infernal Drake towards the end of the game, and so they pick it up very easily. Looking to potentially get back in. There's the Lissandra, gonna get that ultimate down, but where's the follow-up damage? Big Scion stun onto 3 members. Here's Nuggery from the top side. Wants to take out Deft, and he will. And it might just be 3 deaths here on the side of Kingzone as Scion here, Pawn, also gonna go down. A double kill to Nuclear as they pick up 3.
And that's a big win overall for DAMWON, because consider that Shelly was largely used as a ruse to get Inferno. No plate gold, purely to get an Inferno, and they lose 3 deaths for that Inferno. So definitely overall advantage to DAMWON Gaming. This is just a good roam timing. Watch the minimap. Akali is never getting there, and Victor is. So we watch the play here, death flashes, but it's already with Lee Sin mid-air, so Lee Sin's gonna at least close some distance. They get the stun on Deft. He never can open up. There's no value out of Kai'Sa here. Noguri rolls in. Canyon continues his advance. And 3 deaths, a heavy price for Kingzone DragonX.
And it definitely feels like both top laners in this game aren't going to be picking up the MVP, as a couple of mistakes either way have not been the best. But Nuggery now, after making it down there for the fight, does pick up his Abyssal Mask. Is feeling pretty good about that one. And we'll have that MR item you were talking about.
Exactly. He has gone MR, knows that if you do not go Abyssal Mask in this matchup, you hit an item point, literally the item point we're at now, 1 item on the Gunblade, you can't really enter lanes. Really, really tricky without magic resist, and with Akali's ability to both poke, harass, and all in, so smart to be going for the magic resist. Will also amplify his mid laner and even his 80 carries ultimate damage here, so there can actually be some nice synergies. So for now, at least the time in which Akali can kind of wantonly take down Victor in the side lane, it's pretty significantly delayed. We're looking at probably 3 items before there's true threat there, a real toothless threat at this 1 item, 2 item juncture. Look at the lane assignments, DAMWON Gaming shadowing around top side, and Rascal, he's got a stopwatch, he might need it.
This is the next objective they've got their eyes on, as there is a control ward to spot Hoyt coming in, and Rascal clears it out quite quickly. Tucson thinking about an engage, but everybody kind of backs away. They don't want to go for any fights just yet, as the lanes have swapped down here on the bottom side, actually. After that Abyssal Mask was taken out, Pawn decides he's going to be the one laning up against Nuggery in the bottom lane.
Entire Eye of the Watchers from the Rakan here for a little bit more help with no Guardian bot side.
Okay, gonna get that stun down, just trying to keep Nuggery around for the Jax. Not quite gonna get the stun down, but they do get the flash. And with not too many objectives on the map right now, won't cost them too much unless someone can get on top of this top turret.
And Kai'Sa Rakan are so good at trimming waves. Now there's 100 AD on the Kai'Sa. That's pretty impossible for Ezreal to actually pressure this turret. You never want to be having CS in that matchup, as Nuggery's in trouble.
Yeah, might be looking like he's dead here. The TP is going to come in, but it will be responded to as Scion is tanking everything up, and he finally goes down. Cuz too underneath that one, but the rest of Kingzone trying to get on in and take them all out, and that they will. They're chasing the Lissandra.
The Canyon stayed topside through all of this, the only person on that side of the map, so 2 for 2 with Canyon pushing in. Still very decent for the side of DAMWON Gaming.
Looks like we missed the Lissandra going down, but it was just being chased, and as you mentioned, should be potentially the turret up here on the top side if Canyon does stick around. That he will.
It's not as punishing as Tarzan when he was able to get 2 turrets topside on Xin Zhao in the first week of the season that we had a lot of extended discussion about. Because it's Lee Sin, it doesn't have the same item breakpoints, and it's more about the utility when it comes to those mid to late game team fights. But overall, Kingzone had to rotate basically their entire team bot side, kind of halve the kill score. We'll watch the replay. Nuggery has no flash. There's no way for Lee Sin to join. That's why Kingzone feels pretty brazen about making this play, but Nuggery ensures that no turret shot is going to miss. It's always going to be maximum amount of turret shots here because of his position. You cannot juke away from those and actually get one of them to pop by the end. Showmaker chase down does eventually die.
On live, too, we just got Canyon going down up in the top side as it looked like it was Kai'Sa Rakan able to clear that up. Just pick up a nice little cheeky kill on his way out.
That muddies the water a little bit. Evolving story between DAMWON and Kingzone, both in terms of their current roster, in terms of their current standings, but a kill to the good for Kingzone. And Kai'Sa herself, she's hitting the item breakpoint that we all know about, Valdez.
She's got her 2 items, feeling really good about it, and it is Deft with the reins on that one. He's driving the Kai'Sa tonight. Really excited to see what he can do, especially after picking up that next item, or that kill rather, and getting on in. Looks like Cuz was a part of this as well.
And spotted on a control ward, I believe, was Canyon after spending some time in the enemy jungle. The TP invested here. Let's actually watch this play.
It's Kai'Sa TP.
It must have been just the Void Seeker. Oh. Wow. Well, that's the depth things right there. Prediction W. You hit and hope, and you don't have to commit to unless you hit it. When you hit it, your birthdays come early. Nice moment for depth there. Compounds the bad feels because Canyon got all that solo experience and would have actually been a very tasty target.
Yeah, feels really good to pick up an extra kill, especially for your Kai'Sa. And, well, Victor still doesn't have his flash, and it is Nuguri. And so they will just continue going in as Nuguri is on vision. And, well, you can see you later to your life now as the Victor will die once again. This is just the same story. Once again, Nuguri really hasn't learned, and they're just going to bully him until he does.
Nuguri just playing a lot like Marin, if we remember his penchant for overextending. But what's the crucial difference? Marin played teamfight tanks and teamfight mages. He played Kennen, he played Rumble, he played Maokai, he played those tanks. If you're going to hit the side lane on carries and overextend, you just die. And it's not like you can TP and make team fights happen on command with Victor. That's not how it works. So right now, DAMWON aren't actually getting stuff on the other parts of the map, and he's on a farm-intensive champion. So it feels like DAMWON are just paying the price for a top laner who fancies himself a carry in a team that right now isn't able to facilitate his penchant to overextend.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if they could make something of it on the map, if DAMWON could somehow play around that or respond to it as it's happening and expect it to happen, well, then maybe we'd have something going here for DAMWON. But still, the Victor does have 3 kills, and we'll see what he does end up with in terms of his death counter, is what I meant to say. How many deaths will he end up in this game will always be a question for Nuguri on the Victor.
Now, the other thing about Nuguri is very, very gifted player mechanically. He will run away with CS advantages because guess what? If you're overextending for CS, you're going to get the CS. There's still the real chance you turn it around in a team fight, and it's all golden, right? It can't all be Gucci here for Nuguri, but against the better teams, and right now jury's out on where Kingzone is, feels like top 5 is realistic, but we don't know. It's too early in the season. Against better teams, there'll be too many times where Nuguri dies and DAMWON don't get anything else on the map. It already happened just a couple of moments ago. And unless they develop that side of their game, overall, that'll be trading down more often than not, and thus you will lose more game than you win with their current playstyle.
Yeah. And after the way the early game went, where you just get a 1v2 first blood in the top lane, you'd love that Victor to be very efficient and not die so much. But we'll have to wait and see as this game does go along. As the Akali now, very scary and very present in a lot of these fights. Definitely hanging around the mid lane when he's not looking to bully the Victor in the side lane.
Everybody's got some pretty cool items. Next team fight could be a Titanic one. Remember that DAMWON, through their overextending, has a big gold lead. The Infernal answers some of that, but definitely not all of it. Kingzone are about when does Deft enter the fight? Does he count out all those CC abilities? You see Lissandra ult down and Chaos Storm down. You're feeling pretty good to roll in as Deft. He's got his stopwatch. He's going Zonias, so that could still be Nashor's, but probably a Zonias at some point in order to be pretty brazen about taking the moment when he sees it.
Yeah, see that a lot nowadays, just the extra Zonias to make sure you can survive in the fight, especially if you have any AP in your kit to have it make sense. That stasis, very, very common, not just only in the stopwatch nowadays. Who's going to be the first team to make a move at Baron here? You got some pretty decent Baron damage with the Jax Kaisa on the side of Kingzone.
DAMWON have these laners with significant CS leads, and Kingzone have the playmaking comp. Kingzone are going to be grouping a lot more, so they will be giving up minion waves to both Noguri in the side lane and even the mid lane here with Pawn on a merry-go-round looking for kills from time to time. So right now, because their control ward vision's pretty shallow, those moves aren't happening, and those CS leads are extending the gold lead for DAMWON Gaming. But Kingzone have a big ability to force the issue. They are not ones you can trifle with, so maybe they're just waiting for a mistake in transition from DAMWON Gaming.
A third ocean on the map is going to be the next Drake that we do have. Would be pretty nice for Kingzone, actually, if they could pick that up. You get some insane regen. I know everybody loves to hate on the Ocean Drake if it's not an early one. Well, once you get 3, you can siege better, you can try to play around Baron better, pull off of it, and stick around.
I think it's a lot more valuable for DAMWON than it is for Kingzone, because the 3 stack here, when you think of sieging, which I think is really where Ocean Drake shines in the late game, none of their champions really spam out abilities in a siege like an Ezreal. If you look at their lineup, literally no one, actually. So the value here is more about a side lane push, backing away and thinking about a Baron TP, and then regenning before you show again. So it's not quite the siege monster that it could be if DAMWON Gaming were putting together 3 of them. But I take your point. I agree that Ocean Drake has a lot of uses as the game goes on. I think the one Ocean Drake for DAMWON here is actually bigger than some people might appreciate.
We'll see if they can even pick it up, though, as a lot of control in the bottom side is taken away from them. They only have this one ward around that Ocean Drake. And slowly but surely, the Akali Rascal doing a nice job of pushing back up against Noguri in the bottom side. So a lot of DAMWON hanging around this bottom side and could look to make a move at this Ocean Drake.
Pawn has gone really playmaking in his build. He's actually gone Iceborne Gauntlet second. No Righteous Glory. Needs to hit that ultimate, otherwise his threat level's pretty low. Does mean that he has a lot of annoying chip damage and AoE control after a fight starts, but definitely a different school of thought to someone like Sword and the top lane Scion plays, and not even the Chovy style. Bit of AD built in there with something like a Sterix or a Titanic Hydra. So playing these items would be interesting. The longer they don't pull the trigger, though, the little and little that Noguri's side lane pushing and DAMWON Gaming's gold lead grows. It's up to 6,000 already at the 27-minute mark, and it's not because of a kill lead. A couple of turrets, some turret blades, but largely CS is actually contributing this time around.
As it has been from early on in this game, they've been leading in the top lane, in the mid lane specifically, and a tiny little lead in the bottom side here by Nuclear. Doesn't really count, but Kleptomancy's going to be good for him.
And now when they move Victor over, actually a lot of the leads that Kingzone have in terms of Pawn being able to lead with his face, their TP advantages go away if Victor's grouped, right? So they can afford moments like this, and I like to see this from Noguri, not always staying in the side lane, sometimes walking up, because when you're grouped, you put down wards and the enemy can't clear them because of the outnumbered situation and the fact that the TP will take time.
He was waiting in the moment where the lane was decently pushed, but now he has to go back.
And now Kingzone are the ones. This is the seesaw that Vision battles take. We don't have the overlay right now to know where the control wards are. It's possible that they're starting to get exhausted on the side of DAMWON, because this is what always happens. You push up with your 5, you put down your control wards, then finally one of your lanes has to react to a side lane push and the enemy clears your wards. You can look in the inventory now and see 2 control wards, all that's remaining, but all of Kingzone's on the Rift. These moments don't always mean something, but they usually mean at minimum a face check. Will it be anymore?
Looking for Showmaker now. There's that burst damage. Has to ult onto Deft here. There's the follow-up from Nuclear and Hoyt. Can they get into the back line? Canyon does land his Q, but does not take that one-way trip. That would have certainly been to his death. So a little bit of on-the-edge trading here for both of the teams, but nobody is going to overcommit.
But remember, Kingzone is now exhausted out of vision, and Lissandra has TP topside.
Yeah, they get that slowdown onto Cuz with the stun. Showmaker once again here is going to get the multi-man root, and Tucson just disappears before he can really make anything happen. Rascal in the front line trying to break down Canyon, And Victor, by the way, guys, isn't even here as the fight does go the way of DAMWON Gaming, 4v5 essentially. And
this
he
is
might
a
even get a
disaster.
turret.
This is played at the exact perfect time for DAMWON because Kingzone don't have any wards to put down. They have no vision. They're low health bars. They're going to try and TP and make something happen. But it's going to be hard.
It's going to be really hard now because it's 5v4. At least Canyon is a little bit
Canyon's
low.
low, too.
Yeah. Going to get the knock up here on a Hoyt, and Pawn is a big tanky boy. Cuz in the front line, trying to get away with the stun and make something happen, but just gets ulted down by the Lissandra. As he does get that cooldown back, and they will return to the Baron.
Kingzone hold all the cards here. They've got the vision lead, they've got the numbers lead. Rascal's back. How can they do anything here?
Kingzone not willing to give up. As in goes Deft and the rest of his team, getting the back of that pit. As Rascal gonna get low, not able to be taken out here, and actually, Tucson takes it away, probably with his own smite from the Unsealed Spellbook, but they get the Baron to the side of Kingzone, and Deft might even live. Never
Chase
mind.
him down, but the Baron's gone, Valdez. That's the big point here. Pawn will die slowly in the backside. I believe you're correct. I believe it was that Unsealed Spellbook coming through from the Rakan. They were all behind the pit. Looked like a firing squad from Kingzone, but they were outnumbered, and yet, of all things, a smite at the last moment gets Kingzone a Baron. That looked like DAMWON Gaming had set up perfectly for.
It did, go on for a very, very long time, though, the play around Baron, and somehow, some way, in a way that you wouldn't expect as well, the support with Unsealed Spellbook, funnily enough, you were even talking about that in the beginning of this game, ends up being crucial for Kingzone to stay in this one.
Now watch the replay of this one to understand. The play here is perfect from DAMWON. It's a huge mistake from Cuz. Again, what were we talking about? You guys are exhausted out of wards. It's your time to back up. Why are you clearing out a trinket ward right next to the enemy turret at a time where your team can't fight for Baron? If you're pushed away, let's say no one dies and you're just low health bars, you can't even plop in control wards to check the Baron because you don't have any. So it's the exact worst time to walk up. A macro team mistake there. Now watch the replay on the bottom side here. The Baron falls super low. They have the ability for the Rakan to come in late. Let's watch this one. Starts with the Q, dives in, and then right at the end, able to pick it up. It was an under-leveled smite, but Canyon didn't use his smite in the fight, and thus it ends up being all for Rakan as we're fighting again.
Okay, well, this time it is Showmaker all alone. Does he have that Zhonya's? Looks like he does not, as he is going to go down, and everybody's getting caught on the backside as now Tucson able to turn 3 members down.
Free hitting.
Cuz also in that back line as they're getting their most of it. The Zhonya's from Deft 2 keeps him alive. And now it's Noguri versus the World. And I believe the World should win this one. He does get a couple of kills though, somehow. But Deft still remains alive, as does Rascal. It's a one-team fight for Kingzone.
Let's watch this though with no gap. It's gonna be hard. There it is.
Yeah, trying to get on top of him with that shuriken. And with the Shroud, that is gonna be the end of it as 1,000 gold goes the way of Deft at the end of that fight.
Most of it a found bounty, but you'll take it if you're Deft. They clean it up there, has the stasis in order to hard commit. Big victory for Kingzone in a long, drawn-out, messy fight. It all starts with this pick onto Showmaker. Oh, the Glacial Path is in vision, and thus they know that he's actually going to be made accountable. They can dive in. All of DAMWON with GA, with TP, they try to come in, but Valdez, it's against a couple of Baron buffs, and it's after their mid laner is already dead. The timing there is, of course, the part that we'd say on the side of DAMWON that lets them down, and it's not just 1,000 gold bounty. I saw another one.
That one went to Cuz too, which, as we all know, that Jax gets a little bit less farm in the jungle, but will still eventually scale up to be a monster as we do get in the late game, so not very happy with giving over 1,000 gold to him. They get another one here onto Noguri.
So important you hit the E there. Otherwise, Noguri can just continue to poke in and out with the shield and movement speed and potentially pick up more kills. And look at the gold now. It is starting to close, but not a lot, right? It's still around 6,000 gold, which seems insane. But again, it's just farm numbers everywhere. Such a weird and wonderful game where the gold just feels like it's out of step with the action we're seeing.
Yeah, definitely feels that way. And Deft, stealing a blue buff, is going to be feeling pretty good about his play so far today. Did skip the Zhonya's, by the way, went straight into a Banshee Veil for his items.
It's almost double Flame Horizon or double 100 CS leads between the solo lanes, just because of how the game is playing out, where Poland is trying to be a roaming death squad, and the side laners, Showmaker and Noguri in this case, are just picking up CS wherever they can find it. So many creeps have died to turrets on the side of Kingzone, while Rakan and Sion and Jax are chasing for kills. But there's still a chance that you stuff up one team fight around Baron and Elder. And remember, those fights happen more often because the respawn time is for Elder and also the Baron are shorter. On the 2019 patches, in team fights, you feel gold leads. They can often be very relevant. We're not 45 minutes yet, so, well, it's death squad time again.
Showmaker, well, you got a Glacial Path, but did not even get close to getting you out of there, and no vision in that left side. He just gets killed once again, and a bit of a mistake, and unfortunately that means he does die for the 4th time. This
is really hammering of nails in this game, where Sion is the ultimate hammer champion when you want to actually compare things, sorry to Tarek, and the nails are just the side laners trying to pick up CS everywhere and falling down for it. Now, it stops them from actually getting a game-winning pick, because right now they're like, oh crap, we have to respond to bot lane. They can't continue to stay grouped and crack a turret. Their siege is actually pretty poor unless they're willing to dive. But in all the pandemonium, Death's like, guys, I'm already item capped over here with the 1,000 gold I picked up earlier. Also, speaking of that, a nuclear. And now the question is, can DAMWON Gaming, with 6 items, actually out-teamfight Kingzone? Because I would argue that when it comes to the ease of expression, Kingzone have the Sion, so their teamfight should be more straightforward.
You charge at the guy, you get a couple of stuns, you follow up with your Rakan, and then you have your damage dealers head into the back line and cause a bit of a tankier one that can also do damage. It's a nice straightforward comp, as you did mention. Whereas the side of DAMWON, you have to get picks, you have to keep all those squishy guys a little bit more safe, but it's harder to do that without a Sion in the front line.
If the first CC arms on basically anyone, they die. That's the problem when you don't have a Sion, when you don't have a Jax.
Yeah.
Those are front lines. Even Akali has more of an ability to go and drop aggro. Only Lissandra can compare to that. So because of those realities, depth at 6 items seems really ripe to take over this game and has a bigger ability to push damage on multiple members than Ezreal outside of Ultimate. So because of that, you got to be careful as DAMWON. You got to make something happen with your big gold values on multiple players. Otherwise, Horn's coming, and he's going to make you pay for it.
The poke begins, but here comes Deucin. That's a 4-man charm, but no follow-up does come from the side of Kingzone, trying to knock down Deft, and they do get the Guardian Angel. Canyon nearly gives his life for it, but it's a good life, as now we are going to have Cuz go down with his CA. Here comes Rascal into the back line, does have that Zhonya's. Can he take out Nuclear? That would be the biggest play, but not quite able to, as a couple more kills do go the way of DAMWON.
2 for 2 actually there, given how it started with GA popped on Deft, is probably the best case scenario that Kingzone could have hoped for. There's no Smite and no Unsealed Spellbook in the 3 remaining members of DAMWON. So while they would love to go down and bait Baron, they're going to have to do it the hard way. This is going to be an honest Baron bait. And Kingzone know that DAMWON never in a million years will get the Baron low, so they don't have to respect it.
Yeah, and immediately you can see that DAMWON know that as well, and they're going to pull off of the Baron. Not going to go for that one, but a couple of GAs there on the side of Kingzone do go down. It's definitely scary stuff when you consider the next fight.
And you see also why not Unsealed Spellbook might be levied, because if Hoyt has Unsealed Spellbook there, it's a different thing. You can actually bait the Baron.
Yeah.
Because it's Guardian against Rakan, which...
Uh-oh, Nuguri in the front line as Kaisa just gonna rip him to shreds. Oh boy, that last proc there on the Storm.
I think everyone's ripping in this game.
Oh boy, that's just the way of the world now in 9.2. As that one is gonna go wide as Deft actually takes the top side, but that will be the trigger for them to go onto the Elder Drake. But look at Deft's health.
Lifesteal and red buff now, so he's going to be there. It's going to be a 5v4. Noguri has TP, but Death timer's getting long and caught in rotation at 40 minutes. A DAMWON Gaming story.
Yeah.
They're going to lose Elder for this. It's a 4-stack Elder, including an Inferno, and his pawn.
Not going to get the stun, but would have been nice. Nearly able to get on top of Hoyt, who did have his fancy feet. And this is an easy Elder into Baron, as Nuggery is still dead for the next 15 seconds.
How do you fight for this? What can you even do? They have so much damage with the 4-stack Elder.
Maybe you try to steal it, sacrifice a Canyon, but they're considering going on in, as Canyon not even going to make the play. Tucson thinking about it. They're going for the fight here, straight up against Rascal, as the TP is coming in. Can they get on top of anyone? It looks like Pawn is going to be the sacrifice for that Baron, but a worthy sacrifice indeed.
Probably the champion with the least spammable poke that could really proc the Elder, so you're happy enough to get him, but it's not going to be too consequential. Kingzone back away in what has been just the craziest game. DAMWON Gaming could lose this game with a gold advantage. It's only 3,000 now. It's the smallest it's been for the longest time. But because they've got more men on the Rift, they push up, and you lose a couple of members out of position here, you lose the game.
You'll see that Kingzone are going to respect this as well. I mentioned the WGA is down, but now they're going up against Baron minions, so it will be a lot harder to push in. Do DAMWON stick around is the question. Looks like yes.
I mean, it's 20 seconds on Pawn. They're seeing what they can get.
Okay, big stun in the back line, but Cuz is just going to disappear, but Def just chipping away at Hoyt. Now trying to take away Def's health bar.
No minion wave here is going to delay them. They don't want to face tank it with 3 members, including Akali and Def on this Kai'Sa
Double
alive.
TP.
Double TP behind. No actual home guard buff onto Def, you'll notice.
Oh, he's trying to drift. Not quite able to get the curve he was looking for.
Back to the practice tool with you. Scion Speedway fail.
Yeah. As, well, this chase.
Oh, what about this Void Seeker? Remember the last one in this area. Shoots it. Doesn't come out.
Yeah. Wasn't going to go one before, I would imagine, but either way. Nice try on the double TP, but it does mean that now 2 of your members will not have that kind of map presence as this game does go around. Trying to catch them on their way out, but chose the wrong side.
All right, what does this all mean? Is the question we have to ask ourselves. If we run at each other and do a 5v5 man fight, which seems 100% going to happen in this game, based on how it's played out, who wins, it's tricky. I give the advantage to the Kai'Sa comp. Kai'Sa has Infinity Edge, no Infinity Edge on Ezreal, of course. In general, Kai'Sa should reliably put out damage here, but because Pawn is actually less of a Scion than you might think. He has 4,000 health and some good resists, but he's not quite as scary and unkillable as some other Scions we've seen. You can dare to dream with all the damage loaded onto the front line of DAMWON. Here's the engage, Cuz just going to be poking, it seems, with that particular counter-strike. There's a fight here where Tucson misses the grand entrance or the ultimate, and DAMWON win. I got 60-40 Kingzone, but no more.
Tucson looking for it on the left side. He's not going to be quite as fast and immediately get kicked away by Canyon. And now Cuz going to get low. But it looks like Hoyt will be the first casualty. Tucson, will he live? The answer is yes. As no, Canyon trying to get on in there. Uses his flash, but is going to miss. As now Cuz is going to get in. Here comes Def into the back line. Can they take him out? The cleanse is there as he's chipping away the entire health bars of everybody on the side of DAMWON. Is going to push them away as someone have to go home with their tail between their legs. As the chase continues and the snipe comes down from Def.
Celebratory ultimate there from the Scion. Kingzone know they've done enough to win this game.
Looks like they've finally done it here, and they're still down some gold. Maybe after these 2 turrets they can get the lead, but either way, looks like Kingzone will take game number 1 here, and a wild and wacky one to start off the first series of the night.
Fun game 1 between Kingzone and DAMWON, but it tells you the story that teams have started to suspect and now put into action against DAMWON. You don't win against DAMWON in the 1, you win in the 5. You group and force these solo laners to come into fights, and often they come in pretty brazenly from different directions at the wrong time over some vision and get picked in transition. And in those transitions, Paul led the way with some charges. It was weird and wonderful. It was certainly not the cleanest League of Legends, but I think the core plan of make the side laners accountable as they try to put together Flame Horizons and more is the way to take down DAMWON, and it works for Kingzone, at least in game number 1.
And Tucson able to get a win on that Rakan. Brings it out and actually had a couple of really nice engages in that one. Obviously, it is a little bit slower, but especially with the ultimate, seems to have a little bit more what would you say? It's more important in the kit now, and that's where the presence of mind, I suppose, comes in, where Tucson always had it available to go for those engages and make the play happen. But at the end of the day, as you were saying, the Kai'Sa comp does come through, and I wouldn't be surprised if Def does pick up that MVP.
Really interesting game, and game 2 could just be so different. It's hard for Pawn to recreate kind of the let's just give up on lane, I'm Sion, it'll work out. On a champion that isn't Sion, there's others that are similar. I guess Urgot is kind of similar, but doesn't have the engage threat. Creative stuff from Kingzone, and I like what I saw in that victory over Freaka, where they went very simple, let's play for lane. Freaka's going to go crazy stuff, we'll play the best stuff and win. And now they also look at the enemy and say, this is how you win, let's counter it. And largely, they pull it off.
It's working. I mean, I was a bit down on Kingzone before, and when they were down 0-2, it's kind of hard to sing the praises, but now slowly they seem to be coming back here and doing quite well up against DAMWON, a team that everybody expected to do a bit better than this. As I mentioned it before, they have that world-class coach, and after now what could be 3 series in a row where they lose to, you know, the side lanes just getting caught and picked over and over and over again, it's hard to even count it on one hand the amount of times that happened to not only Noguri, but also Showmaker in this series on the Lissandra. So you got to be careful. You can't get picked, and you have to have better team fighting. And DAMWON will have a bunch of things to go over before they do continue to win here in the LCK.
Good news, we will have a full best of 3 and see if DAMWON Gaming on the blue side can find a different approach to this game. Big damage numbers on the Ezreal and the Victor, but we know the Victor's damage was largely in vain. I think the Victor is where you like to see Noguri, but of course, you need 4 bans to get him there. He wants to have things that can impact the fights a bit more cleaner. In this game, the zombie pushing just couldn't work out when it came to actually closing a game. As you look at the gold graph here, doesn't tell you the story. DAMWON's gold just couldn't be wielded in a way that seemed likely to actually end the game.
Yeah. Kind of interesting, too, the KDA, both teams with 20 kills, and the gold, a difference of less than 500 at the end of that game. It was so back and forth, it felt at times, but at the end of the day, the composition there for the 5v5 team fights that Kingzone were able to force them into was just a bit better, Papa.
Well, let's get to game 2 after the break and see if we get some more fun.